Dwight Moody is one of the best known and most impactful preachers in the history of Christianity. At least 80 full-length biographies have been written about D.L. Moody. But there's one Moody biography that's unique, and that's the one titled My Father, written by his son, Paul Moody. If you have any interest at all in the life of Moody, you will undoubtedly enjoy the book, My Father. Dwight Lyman Moody was born in Northfield, Massachusetts in 1837, and he died in Northfield in 1899. He spent 16 years living and serving the Lord in Chicago, and 27 years traveling America and the world as an evangelist. He moved his family back to Massachusetts in 1876, where he would live for the rest of his life. He started Northfield Seminary for Young Ladies in 1879, the Mount Hermon School for Young Men in 1881, and the Bible Institute in Chicago, now called Moody Bible Institute, in 1889. He met and married his wife Emma in Chicago, and they had 3 children together: Emma Reynolds Moody, born in 1864, William Revel Moody, born in 1869, and Paul Dwight Moody, born in 1879. All 3 of their children grew up to love and serve the Lord. It was their youngest son, Paul, who wrote this wonderful biography, My Father. Moody was 42 years old when Paul was born, and Paul grew up with his family traveling with his dad to meetings throughout America and Europe. His greatest memories were of his dad at home in Northfield. He said his dad was a nearly ideal companion for a very small boy. Since Paul was 10 years younger than his other brother, he was the only small child in the house. But he clearly remembers his dad doing everything possible to make up for the lack of another little boy. His dad had a very engaging way of interacting with children, and he never talked down to Paul. He always treated him as if his opinion mattered to him. Dwight Moody loved animals. The Moodys raised dogs, cows, pigs, sheep, donkeys, pheasants, peacocks, deer, and bees. It was an especially important part of raising his children that they be accustomed to handling horses. Moody had his own horse, named Nellie Gray, and each of his children had their own horse. Moody had one rule about horses, and that was that, just like humans, their horses must have one day of rest each week. It didn't need to be Sunday, but they did need to be rested. The kids rode horseback, but Moody himself enjoyed riding in a 2-seat buggy pulled by his horse. He preferred not to ride his horse and buggy on the roads of Northfield. Instead, he loved to drive across lots and fields. His favorite time to ride was early in the morning, for 2 or 3 hours, especially during the summer. When the family came to the breakfast table, Moody was already there, and they knew that he had either just come from his study or from riding. Dwight Moody loved to see things grow, so they had a 4-acre vegetable garden with enough vegetables to feed 100 people. But as much as he loved to see things grow, he hated to see things go to waste. So he spent many mornings going to homes within a 3 to 4 mile radius, leaving bushels of vegetables at his neighbors' doors. Moody's son described him at home in Northfield as a stout, bearded Peter Pan, a boy who never grew up. He writes, he shamefacedly did things he knew he would lovingly be scolded for doing, but he had a wonderful time both doing them and defending himself for doing them. When he was preaching, he was meticulous in his grooming, his suits and ties well maintained, the best leather shoes, and his hair and beard well trimmed. But around the house, taking care of their animals, he loved to wear what his family called his bumblebee suit, an old pair of rubber boots, an old beat-up hat, worn-out trousers and waistcoat, and a brown velveteen jacket. Moody loved practical jokes, and he loved to affectionately laugh at the victims of his pranks. He also loved when someone played a trick on him, and when they did, nobody laughed harder than Moody himself. His favorite view was the view from his front porch. He loved to sit there in the evenings, watching the sunset across the Connecticut River, over the hills of Vermont and New Hampshire. His family ate their big meal of the day at the noon hour, making the evening meal shorter so that the time wouldn't be wasted indoors eating instead of outside enjoying the beautiful sunset. Before the noon meal, the family would sit in the library as Moody opened the large amount of mail he received each day. He would regularly read a letter, then put it back in the envelope and toss it to a family member or a guest in the room and say, "Answer that." Whenever one of them would ask, "What should I say?" he would tell them, "I gave it to you to answer. When I hire a dog, I expect them to do the barking." Paul Moody said his dad had sayings like that for every situation. Of course, this is just a small taste. The only way you'll get the full feel of this over 200-page book, My Father, by Paul D. Moody, is to find it online and read it for yourself. I know you'll find it to be a blessing. Christian, your life can be strengthened by reading the lives of godly believers of the past. Stay the course.